Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, I hope you're having a fantastic day and an even better week. Things are starting to normalize somewhat in this hot summer. Whenever you're watching this, it may not be summer, but it's okay. Well, folks, today we're going to talk about love. What? Yeah, we're going to talk about love. You might be thinking, what do you mean, love? Sounds like a squishy topic, when we're talking about culture and organizations and all the things, right? But love is a quintessential part of the equation of us, right? The mechanics of the human being. And you can't really separate your intellect from, all the things that make us up to include love in our lives, right? So, but we are going to talk about within an organizational setting or a team setting, for example, what it might look like when lack of love is really what's going on, right? So it's pretty obvious when we say, oh, well, love, you love your significant other, you love your family, your friends, all the things, right? But that's pretty broad strokes. Most people can say those things, but when we start, if you dig into the weeds of it and you start to, really reflect, do we really represent that love that we say we have, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about organizationally what it might look like and how the lack of love manifests, right? So what does the lack of love look like in an organization? Well, first of all, your passion for the organization, actually for the work, right? People become bored, right? Everything feels like Groundhog Day. It's repetitive. So there's that repetitiveness. There's boredom there, maybe lack of challenge. So those are a few things that can be going on. Also, when you to understand where there's a lack of love, is the team and how it gets along. Are they kind of biting at each other, kind of snipping at each other and it's one thing to have fun, being a light, good, positive, upbeat, and a little sarcasm can, kind of charge things up if it's in a positive mode, right? But that dark sarcasm, right? The Pink Floyd dark sarcasm in the classroom. But that dark sarcasm where things become biting and piercing and cutting, right? You start to see that go on within the team. Then you start to see potentially I want to say disloyalty, but a lack of, first of all, to be led or to follow somebody who's a leader in your organization also means that you have to be an effective follower. So that followership, that ability to follow your leader, right? We all have a leader. It doesn't matter. You keep going and going and going. There's always somebody who's your boss. Ultimately, whoever your customer is your boss, right? And if you have multiple customers and you understand that that's what culture really is just identifying all the facets of who your bosses are, right? but but in the sense that you lose a passion, I guess you could say, for your followership, your ability to follow the vision of your leader or your boss and so on and so forth, right? So there's a lack of an ability or desire, right, or a passion, you could say that too, to be a great follower, right? You can have a fantastic leader, even just a good leader, an okay leader. If you have a fantastic team and a good leader, you're going to go far. If you have a fantastic leader, but your team is kind of, right, because they aren't, they don't recognize themselves as great followers and they aren't living up to that standard, that potential for the customer ultimately, then it wouldn't matter what leader you put in the seat. And oftentimes you'll see this too, where an organization will swap out leader, every year or two, right? Swap them out because the team starts to kind of become numb. Also, some leaders also become a little bit, we'll say, routine in their patterns and their progression and their ability to uplift, motivate, and inspire their team, right? So you can see this manifest from all kinds of different angles. And that lack of love also is when that leader is what? Falling over the edge and they've kind of given up. It might be the team is, there is this ganging up on thing, right? Where the team might gang up on the leader, or the leader and the support staff might gang up on the employees. And now it's not often talked about, right? But it happens. We can most certainly reflect back in organizations we may have been associated, or those that we had come across, where there was this feeling that the cliquishness became a little bit of the inner competitive went beyond inner competitive, or it became a finger pointing, right? The scapegoat, right? Or I should say the scapegoat, not the scapegoat. You might want to escape if you feel like you're the scapegoat, but it's being the scapegoat. If people are looking for the scapegoat, then the employees aren't communicating because they don't want to become the scapegoat, right? There isn't this open, vulnerability that should be there, because what? They feel like the leaders or leadership team is targeting them, right? And it could very well be, right? And so you have a team, right, that loses love for their leadership team, loses their passion for the leaders, right? And leaders may be losing passion for the team. Well, they're not giving me their best. They're not trying. They require so much care and feeding beyond the norm that it's over the top, right? All the drama, toxicity, but that can come from all the way around. And it really is up to the entire team to stop, have one big team meeting, and it might take a few of these to get some things on the table and get them resolved, without any kind of retro punitive actions taken, right? So people can communicate and get all the stuff on the table, as we might say, and deal with it, right? And be able to talk freely. And it might require one-on-ones as well if it gets a little bit more, if it's a little more sensitive, right? Or it might be a small group thing, whatever. Depends on your organization, depends on your style, depends on who the leader is and how they want to manage that, and the team, right? Because, it's not just preference of the leader, it also has to be tailored to your team's style as well. And you may have to break it down. If you're multi-shift, or if you're separated by different sites, this raises the complexity some. This is why it's difficult for leaders in the CEO level to really effectively do this. And when they obfuscate a lot of that to, say, corporate HR, right? And you got to have them. I'm not poo-pooing them, but I am saying that people see a corporate HR coming. Do you think they stop and open up? No, they think that they have a target on their back and they clam up, right? Everything's good. Everything's great. Everything's good. Everything's great. Everything's good. Everything's great. Everything's good. Everything's great. And it's not. People are just literally going, nope, I just need to survive this visit so that I can keep getting paid to do this job, because I can't afford for my family not to eat, okay? It may be as simple as that. As simple as that. So what does that mean? It means leaders have to go down and get involved. They can't obfuscate this stuff to HR. Come on, folks. If you're a leader, you're a leader. Get down there and do the business, right? Get in there, get your team pumped up, get them inspired, let them open up, let them get things off their chest and to communicate, and so that you can start to fix your organization, right? Because a lack of love is also what? Is noticeable by a lack of doing anything about the problems that are existing. But also teams have to be willing to step up and communicate when the opportunity is given. So both sides have to, and I hate the side thing. It should just be one team, right? But so often the biggest hurdle you have, and if you have this is another sign that you're lacking in love as well, is if you see if there's an us versus them mentality at the site or the organizational level at large, that is part of the problem as well. And you may have, look, folks, there is not just one problem with your organization that's causing it to struggle. There's not two problems in your organization that's causing it to struggle. You've got a handful and sub-supporting categories of contributing factors that are turning the wheel into the negative when it comes to your organization's struggles. So this isn't a one-hit wonder, right? But you do need to understand that all of these things, when you decide to transform and to fix them, has to come from a place of love. It has to be an emotive force, right? Another thing is if we start throwing employees away, right? Or if you're the upper echelon in the leadership chain, we start throwing your site leaders away. You start throwing people away. And, oh, I'll just get another site leader. Oh, I'll just get another this or another that. I'll just, no, they're a problem. Let's let them, whatever. Look, folks, if you get to that, more than likely you haven't done a lot of things to get to the level where you're starting to throw employees away. Now, if you have people walking out on you, that's another flag that should be going up, yellow, reddish flag that should be going up saying, oh, right, there's a lack of love in this organization, lack of love for your customers, lack of love for each other, right? Don't be afraid of the L word, folks. If you're afraid of the L word, you've got bigger problems than you thought you had, right? We can't be in this mode of throwing people away or believing that there are lost causes, as we've spoke about in a previous video or two. There are no lost causes, right? Only when we stop trying. And we have to catch ourselves, and we got to slow it down, right? Communicate, open up, start to create the lists, prioritize the list, work the list, help fix the problems. And some of the time, and the greatest part of your problem isn't your resources, isn't necessarily your timing, although those are problems, right? Can be problems oftentimes, but they're effects, right? They're effects of deeper problems. And those deeper problems have to do with your team and its synergy, its ability to become cohesive and remain cohesive, right? In the when teams come together, when people come together to form a team, they form, they go through storming stage, they normalize, and then they get to a performing stage. A lot of times organizations don't really get out of the storming stage because they get to the storming stage, they give up, they can't figure out what's going on. Oh my gosh, we'll get rid of the site leader. Oh, we'll get rid of these people. Oh, this, that. We won't invest in research. We won't do the things we should be doing, which keeps exacerbating the storming stage, okay? You never get to norming or performing. You think you are. Your normal is chaos, okay? If your normal is chaos, then love has left the building. Love has left the building as it relates to your organization. So you got to get back to basics, folks. This is part of the reason I say in the book, we're here to protect love. You protect love, everything you say and do now starts to reflect, right, how you're taking care of your customers, all your customers, not just the end users of your product and service, but the people on your teams, your support staffs, other site leaders, the broader organization, and all of them in recipient, because it's a reciprocal relationship. Everything has to be reciprocal or there's no balance, okay? You can't have, I'll use an example, servant leadership. You hear it's like servant leadership, servant leadership, servant leadership. Yes, you need to have servant leadership. But that's just one half of the ever-turning wheel, right? There's servant leadership, servant followership, servant leadership, servant followership. And that's what creates momentum, like a motor turning, right? Like when the pistons turn the motor, right? So you need to have that. You can't have, the leader can't be everywhere. The leader can't solve all of your problems. At a certain point, we have to grow up and realize this, right? That we're leaders within our small circle. And I'd say most of us know this. But not everybody really consciously in the forefront of their mind really sees themselves as the leader. They go, well, I'm just somebody in the organization and I don't really have power and da-da-da. Well, you have a voice, you have a heart, you have a mind. You have plenty, right? You have the ability to contribute, to grow, and to help what? The rest of your team thrive, to help yourself thrive, to help the organization thrive, to help all your customers thrive, and then that reciprocation comes back. If you're an organization and you don't recognize that reciprocation has to come back, then that's how you know love has left the building as it relates to your broader organization, okay? Is that you're receiving all the good stuff. You're getting the sales from customers, right? You're getting the reputation in a positive way. Your people are working hard, but what are you doing for your folks? What are you doing for your team? What are you doing, right? If you're just on the receiving end, that's an example of where love has left the building, right? So we're probably going to title this one, How to Recognize When Love Has Left the Building. Because some of these simple things, some of these broad strokes really represent when love has left the building, right? Now, when we get down to the nitty gritty and we get into the the personable elements of this, we also have to realize that some people are they're kind of blind to the fact that folks are struggling, that they need help, they need assistance, they need support, right? In your organization, they're not getting the resources. They've been asking for things forever. They've been, hey, I need this to do the job properly. I need, all the things. And when they don't get support, what happens? Then the team starts to fold in on itself, right? The attitudes start to wane, and here comes the bad attitude. And then the bad attitude thing becomes a multiplying effect, right? An exponential effect throughout the organization at that point. So it's not just what we're thinking, what we're saying, what we're doing. It's true, but we have to have follow through, right? We have to have follow through at every level. And if you do that, more than likely you can salvage the love that your organization either once had or that you hope to create in your culture, right? Don't be afraid of the L word. If you're afraid of the L word, like I said, you have bigger problems than your organization, okay? So, all right, folks. Remember, hit that good green domino 3 to 5 times a day to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage one another. When we do that, not only helping to improve culture and help people within it, but we're improving our own lives. And that's a special thing. Never take it for granted. All right, folks, have a fantastic day. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.